because I have quite a few. Okay, and I don't see me yet. There I am. Cool. All systems are go. Welcome, 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 welcome in. It is almost 9 o'clock, and I will be working on this black and white version, even though it will not be black and white, of this pattern that is upside down, but the quilt doesn't matter which direction this is going in. This is Color Me Silly, and it is by Gigi Stitching. Um, and so you can, I know that she is getting ready to go live with the pattern. She was trying it out on Shopify, and I'm going to test this out and knock out a couple kinks here while I make another quilt. And this is like what that Color Me Silly looks like. Um, and again, it's a really cute quilt, and I think it's a really easy quilt. I have cut out all my pieces, so I have everything already cut out and ready to go. And it is time to get started. So the pattern calls for doing the strips first. So we're going to get these strips out the way, and we're going to do all the strips. So what we're making with these strips, hey Tam, what we're making are these blocks. And so these are the blocks that we will be making with the strips. So I pre-did some blocks just so you would see how they come out. And this is what I'll be working on. Hey Anna J. Okay. So one thing that I like about quilting, I do like strip piecing. I think that it's quicker. I think it's a little easier than cutting out individual blocks and then sewing those individual blocks together. Yesterday, I was working on a patchwork that I'm setting up for a duffel bag. And because of the nature of the scraps that I was working with, I had no choice but to cut them out and do them individually. Hey, Levon, how are you? I did not know you were in the tickety tock streets. Hi, Anna, how are you? Okay, so I am getting used to looking at two different devices because I know Shamir is still live today, but she called me out for not being on YouTube. So I am on YouTube as well, because I got called out. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I just have to remember like to look over from time to time. So right now I'm streaming from three different platforms. So I have YouTube, Twitch, and Tickety Talk, all going at the same time. So when I'm delirious, you'll know why. But all I'm doing right now are the two fabrics that I need to have sewn together, and then we will subcut them once they are all sewn together. And when we subcut them, they will look like this. And then I'll have a set that looks like this. And I also, in addition to chain piecing, I love to do, in addition to um, strip piecing, I love to do chain piecing. And that means that I just keep going and going and going. And I don't bother to clip my threads in between, because why do that if you don't have to? So we'll just run all these strips through. There are going to be two sets of black and pink, and only one set of the pink and the gray. So I have, and depending on how you do this, you can either pre-pin or pre-clip them in advance, or you could do like I'm doing and just lining it up. Sew a little bit and then line some more up. So it's totally up to you which way you go. If you are doing it the way I'm doing it, just make sure that you are not pulling your fabric. The best way to warp your fabric, to stretch it out of shape, to create waves, is to pull. Your feed dogs are pulling your fabric this way, and what you don't want to do is pull your fabric back towards you. So you're just letting it ride. You're letting those feed dogs do the work. My hand here on the machine is making sure that that fabric stays at that 1/4 inch. So that's the only reason it's there. A lot of times we think we have to pull and we don't whenever we're sewing. You can just let the fabric go. I don't, you'll notice I have these white edges on my fabric. I don't cut the selvages off ahead of time. I will cut them off afterwards, and that's personal preference. Some people use them. So somebody named Rosalind is making hers. She's making something out of it, and it would have been nice if I would have cut them off in advance. But I'm so quick to do what I do that I forgot, and I need to remind myself to cut them off and to save them in a big bag so I can ship them to her. Typically, in the quilts, we don't sew the selvages into our quilts because they are a tighter weave around the edge that keeps it from fraying when it's in the store. It also is where they put all their information if they list it on there. So traditionally we cut those off, but there are now uses for them because people are making quilts and clothes out of them. Because it is a much tighter weave and it looks really cool to see all that. Okay. And I have one more strip to go. So again, I am working on the Color Me Silly Quilt, and this is by Gigi Stitching. She is on a variety of platforms, all as GGS Stitching. So there's two S's. Ask me how I know when I went to tag her. So it's GG Stitching. And she is a pattern designer, quilt maker, and this is her quilt. And I fell in love with it when I saw it. She had it in a green and a beige and a black, and I was like, "Yup." And so I did make this quilt earlier. I made it out of pink and green fabrics um, in honor of Wicked. So I called it my Wicked inspired quilt. Thank you. I like how the colors are coming together for this. And to and really I'm making two pink and purple ones, so I actually have another one that I'm doing tomorrow. That one won't have, that's just pink and purple and white. This one is actually pink, purple, black, and gray. that gray may be showing up as white on the screen, but it's actually gray. Okay. And again, I'm just doing all my strips. I need to act like I know and get that iron hot because I'm going to press these seams open. Oh, awesome. Oh, okay, Stephanie. Thank you. Thank you for the follow. Welcome, welcome, welcome to my live sewing. I'm trying to be a little bit more consistent in my lives. Um, Not only do I talk about fabric, I talk about quilting, but I will share any information. If there are questions that you have, I will not say that I am an expert. But if there's something I can answer, a direction I can point you in, absolutely. Feel free to ask. I have these little snips. I got these off of Amazon. Awesome. Welcome to the sewing world. It's one that will drive you bananas, but it is so rewarding. For my fabrics, and like there's been a lot on social media lately for the quilting police. And that's because there are people who for years have learned how to do something and they stick with those methods. um, I don't police other people, but I do have ways that I do things, but I also talk about the ways that other people can do them as well. Thank you, thank you, thank you for the heart me. This is so I stitch everything together and it is at a 1/4 inch. Traditionally, all quilts are sewn at about a 1/4 of an inch. So we have a 1/4 inch foot as well that we use because they might as well all just be a 1/4 inch since that's what we're going to use. When we finish this, we make a decision about how we're going to press our seams. Garment sewers traditionally will press their seams open. So that's how a garment sewer will do it. And there's nothing wrong with a quilter doing it this way. However, some quilters will sew their fabric to one side, those seams to one side, and usually sew it to the dark side. This works sometimes for us because when it comes to nesting our seams, and you'll see that shortly, having it all go to one side helps us to nest the seams. But sometimes, depending on how many cuts we have and the directions of our darks versus our lights, that's not always possible. Oh, that fly black chick, welcome in, welcome in. So it's up to you which way you want to go, which is easier. The end result is you want to have flat seams. So I'm going to take this over to my iron and I need to iron all of these. So that's like my station break commercial, right? Commercial break at this point. So again, if there are any questions or anything, because ironing it is what it is. Um, Traditionally, again, for a quilter, ironing is pressing. We don't mush the fabric around because you don't want to stretch it out of shape. So what you do is you just kind of press. My, I think my Alicio is on its last leg. So this iron has feet on the bottom of it, and the feet pop out. So it allows for it to sit up off of the ironing board because when you do a whole lot of quilting, unfortunately, you will sometimes walk away and leave that iron laying flat down. And so, as to not to burn your ironing board, burn the house down, we will have those feet to help, lift it off of the ironing board, and it will also keep it hot while it's in the position for us to press. I didn't pre-press these just because I knew I was going to press them. When I get here, because I do cut on the fold. If I press it and that fold doesn't come out, I will use best press and just give it a little squirt. You don't need much. And then when I press that on there, it'll knock that little crease out. And again, I'm not moving the iron around like I do when I iron my clothes in the morning before I go to work. I'm just pressing so that center seam will lay flat. And I have one down and I have four more to go. So again, and I'll repeat it a couple times just for people as they are coming in. I am working on Color Me Silly. And this is what it looks like. This is a pattern, and it is by G Stitching. And I've already made one so far. I love the pattern. I think it's an easy pattern. Anything that doesn't have a whole lot of half square triangle is considered somewhat easy for me. There are some places where you are going to deal with the triangles though, and it's around the border. And I love the border, so I'm going to do it. But the reality is, your quilt your way, and if you don't want to deal with those triangles, don't cut them out. And you could absolutely change the border and make it your own. So you could call it Color Me Silly with a twist. Oops. I told you it was on this last leg. You know what? I'm going to turn my feet off because it's playing games with me and I don't want it to get switched out. Oh my goodness. Anna J. Well, I look. I'm on that one because Shamir harassed me. She was like, aren't you supposed to be on text on YouTube? I was like, okay, I'm caught. So I said, let me act like I know. So it's not a problem. I'm just a TikTok person. So again, just giving it that press. If later I really, 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 really want to get those seams to do what I want them to do, once the quilt is together, I can press them the way that I need to. Way too close to all my rings. What rings? It does matter, but it doesn't matter. Um, I want all my seams going in a certain direction so that when I nest them, they're going to lock in together. That's like when you nest the seams, you're locking the seams in together, and I'll show you what that looks like. Oh, the rings on. Oh, the clothes on my rings on my watch. Oh, okay. That took a minute. I was like, what? Because I tell people I wear shirts and I'm out in the street and somebody's like, go Phillies. And I'm like, okay, why are they telling me go Phillies? And because you got a Philly shirt on. And so I forgot all about my watch. I'm like, watch? What? Yeah. So on Mondays and Wednesdays, I have a personal trainer that I use. I do him virtually because why go in if I don't have to? Even though I had a dream right before boot camp today that my mother, God rest her soul, packed up all the stuff in the basement and made me go back into the studio. And I was like, "Uh-oh, what was that about?" And then it was even funnier because I asked my dad, who has never lived with us, um, why my mother did what she did. So it's just an odd dream. Um, but that's because she wanted me out of that space. It's not a problem. Like I said, I just I keep forgetting, what I have on. So it's not a problem at all. But again, you want these to nest, and we'll look to see what that looks like because we're now on the last one. So we're going to cut these, subcut these, and then we are going to chain stitch all of them together in the directions that they're supposed to go. I did find out the first time that I made this, it is important to follow directions. Sometimes we get cocky, and that's in anything that we do when we're like, okay, I understand this. And the problem is that it will mess you up if you don't, and you'll do a lot of seam ripping. And I do not like to seam rip. And I don't think there's anybody who does, but it just drives me bananas to have to do it. Okay, and that's in there like that. And we'll get this last piece. All fabrics are not the same. Some fabrics are a little wider than others. So you'll notice that on this piece right here, the the black and the purple didn't match up. But on this end, they did. That's why sometimes I don't bother cutting that selvage off because I'm going to cut anyway. And it doesn't matter. Let's slide these out the way. Remove that iron because I have enough iron marks on my arms. And when I do this, I do like to double it just because it goes faster. I can either double the strips themselves or I can just fold the strip in half. Totally up to you which way you want to go. So I can either do it so that it doubles like this, or I can take two strips and put them together and double cut this way. It just gives you less cuts, and you just need to make sure you line everything up. But totally up to you which way you want to go. But I do want to make sure that everything is lined up and it's nice and straight so I can get some nice and straight even cuts. Okay. I like to bring in my little janky ruler. I always talk about my little janky ruler. It has this film on it. It keeps the ruler from slipping. I bought this film by the yard somewhere. Don't ask me where. It's been a while. Um, but it keeps the ruler from slipping. And you can see that it is all jagged right now because, yeah, I broke it one day. I probably stepped on it knowing me. And unfortunately, um, yeah, rulers are expensive. So I was like, yeah, I'm still going to use it because it's still usable. This I can cut off now. I line everything up nice and even, and then I cut. One of the rules in quilting is to measure twice, cut once. You do not want to measure once and then cut because sometimes, like me, I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. So I go back, I look at my directions, make sure I see what I see. Is it what it's supposed to be? And then I will do the cut. If you cut it and you're not paying attention, then if it's a, let's say, a 3 inch cut and you cut it at 4, now you've lost it. You've lost an inch possibly off the next piece that you need to cut. Or if you cut it too short, now you can't use that piece. So you want to make sure that all of your pieces are the way that they're supposed to be. You can either use your ruler or you can use the mat. It is up to you which way you want to go. Um, if the cuts are bigger than the ruler, you have to use the mat. If the cuts are the same size or less than the size of the ruler, you could use either or. So obviously I have this on a diagonal right now, so I'm using the ruler. This is a um, this is a big mat, rotary cutting surface. I have one upstairs. I have two big ones. I have a travel size one, and I do have one that I will be using later, which is on a turntable. And so they are here on social media streets as well. Big mat rotary cutting surface, and I do love it. Okay, somebody's comment got blocked, so I'm not sure what someone asked. Again, I go back, I make sure that I am paying attention from time to time. So even while I'm talking, I am looking at my measurements. And this is why sometimes the process goes slow, and that's okay. Because you want to make sure that you're accurate with your cuts, because it is going to affect what your block looks like later. And there is some squaring up that you can do to ensure that you can fix it, or if it doesn't match up, you can do a smaller seam. Hey, Tootie B. But either way, you want to make sure that as best as possible that you get those blocks or those pieces to be the size that you want them to be. After a while, my eyes like to play tricks on me. So if I need to adjust what I'm looking at, I will just kind of adjust my eyes a little bit and then go back to that cut. Another suggestion, and if I didn't have multiple ones, I would do it. You could use tape. Um, and I would suggest like painter's tape versus masking. Masking tape tends to leave a residue, whereas painter's tape won't. So I could tape, and painter's tape will come off, right? So you can lift it off, reposition it, lift it off, reposition it. So that didn't go all the way through. So for if I'm working on a specific size and I'm doing the same thing over and over again, instead of paying attention all the time, I can absolutely have it already pre-marked. So then that way, when I'm making the cuts, I just line it up with that tape and it will automatically show me where I'm supposed to go. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully, I will see you again soon. I appreciate you for joining me. It doesn't matter to me whether it's 2 minutes, 1 minute, or an hour. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate the support. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we got it. Okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you for tapping the screen. We are almost at 3,000 likes. Thank you. I appreciate you. And we are coming here. 1, 2, 3. And I'm coming right up to the edge for as much as I can. And I don't think I can do it because I can see right here that I don't have enough for this pink one. So then this doesn't work. And then if I look at this one doesn't work. So these two are going in the scrap pile because I can use those for something else. I don't waste anything. I have 4 to do, so I have these 2 that I need to cut, and then everything will be cut. Thank you everyone again for joining me. I am working on the Color Me Silly quilt. And right now I am working on the main body of the quilt. So this is basically broken down into, let's say, 3 parts. The main body are these blocks in the center. Then there's this great border that's around here. And I think this is what I love the most is that border. And then there's the regular border. Okay. So I love this border here. And this is a pleasure all within itself. And then we have these blocks. Oh, currently, I already started with some of the blocks just so that you could see what they look like. And these are the blocks. Let me slide that out the way for a second. So I have these as the blocks. So I am working on the units for the blocks. So that is right now here and here. So it is the pink and the gray and the black and the pink. And then we'll attach the 2 blacks. Well, so we're doubling these. So these will be attached and then this gray strip will be attached next once I finish subcutting. Hi, Crystal Grace. How are you? Is that Canada? I went to Canada twice. We went for a Niagara Falls trip and we did a cruise and we went to Nova Scotia. And I think we stopped in Quebec. I think we stopped in a major city. So I do know that while we were on the cruise. Awesome. And I keep saying I'm going back, and I keep procrastinating. That's my problem. I need to stop procrastinating. I'm cutting off all my excess. If I can't use the excess, it goes in my scrap pile. If I need to trim it down for my scrap pile, I will do that. Yeah, it was, and it was funny. My friend of a billion years has a high school reunion group, or had one, because I haven't seen them doing much of anything. But they had one back in the day where they were really active, and so they would have a trip every year. And they went, and actually both trips were sponsored by them. So we went to the cruise. We left out, I believe, out of New York. Um, when we went to Nova Scotia, we went in the summertime and it was cold. I was like, what? Um, so that was funny, riding the boat up to the cold. And then they went back for the Niagara Falls, and we rode the falls, which was really nice. So it was really a great trip. Now this one is a little different from the other one. The other one I had the black and the red, the black and the pink on both. These 2 are different, so I am separating them and putting them into their own piles, just so that I won't have to think about that later. So I'm pre-separating them now. And again, I'm working in like an assembly line. It was a great trip. Like Niagara Falls wasn't cold, cold, um, but Nova Scotia was cold, cold. Again, measuring twice, cutting once. This is called you need to change your blade. This is called the blade is upstairs, and I've been saying this all week, and I need to change this blade. One of the things about doing this way, opposed to pre-cutting your squares and then sewing them individually, is that when you're sub-cutting these, you have to be careful with how you are handling them because you're cutting right through the stitches. And so because you're cutting through the stitches, they can easily come undone. And then you have to sew them again to keep those stitches in place. So you don't want that aggravation, trust me. So just be careful when you're doing it this way. Like I said, it's a little more tedious to do it the other way, because then you have to cut all of the squares and then match them back up again, together. Thank you. I try. It helps, the time to pass. Is it Luli? Hi, Luli. How are you? So there are people who are like, well, do you backstitch? And I'm like, technically, it didn't matter if I backstitched because if I backstitched, I would have backstitched down here. And I'm subcutting these, so there was no way that I could backstitch all the way along, the way. So, you're just careful with what you're doing as you're stitching, so you don't have to worry about them coming loose. And again, lining things up. And again, what is coming natural to me, which may not even be natural to some, is that when I'm lining this up, I am using the lines on the ruler and I am using the perpendicular lines, right? And what I mean by that is I'm using a line and a line. So I'm using a vertical line and a horizontal line to line everything up. I'm also being mindful of my seam line to make sure that's lined up as well. Okay. And again, I'm using my ruler as the guide. I am not using the mat. So even though I've managed to straighten this out and it looks like I could be using the mat, right now I'm not using the mat. I'm using the ruler. So, Grace, here's the thing, right? I will reduce the stitch length, but whenever I reduce it too much, so this is about a 2.5. But so I don't do a 3 and I'm not doing a basting, but what I have found is that a lot of times I mess up. And so because I mess up, if I make the stitch length too short, then there's a whole lot more picking, and I can't see, like this case, this is gray thread. I can't see those stitches to pop all that stuff out. So I keep a decent stitch length, not too long, but not too short, so that if I have to pick it out, I have the ability to see it, to pick it out. I can get my seam ripper in there. That's all important to me, especially because I mess up. Um, there's a part of this where we're working on the triangles for for the border. And the last time I did this, I wasn't paying attention. These are too small, so I can't use those. I wasn't paying attention. And when you do the triangles, they go in this direction and they go in this direction. So you have two different triangles that you're lining up. And if you sew them all like this, they won't work. So you have to sew them both ways. And so when I flip and stitch, one layer that I'm sewing will have the black on top, and one layer that I'm sewing will have the gray on top. I was running my mouth, and I think, let's say, for example, I did it all black on top, and I had too many of them, and then I had to seam rip those out. And I was not a happy camper, especially because, especially with these triangles, these are cut on the bias, and with them being cut on the bias, they become real stretchy. And then when you are trying to seam rip, you're stretching and pulling your fabric, and that was just burning my gump the entire time. I was like, I can't believe this. So yeah, and I've made too many mistakes with quilting. I usually can fix it, but I've made so many mistakes with it. I'm like, yeah, my seam allowances need to be reasonable so I can plop those things out. Okay, so we have now the black and the gray. Let me put these next to what they are. So the black ones, there are more of these because if you look at the block again, black and pink exists on these two sides. This is a solid purple down here, and then the gray and pink is up in this corner. So I need two sets of these, one set of this, and one set of this. My purple is already cut out, and that's here. So it's just waiting for all of these to be done. So we're going to chain piece through all of them. And we'll start with the black. Now, I have these flipped in all different kinds of directions, which I really shouldn't have, but I need to go back because there's an order that this has to go in. So I'm going to remind myself that it needs to look like this. If you change the order, it's going to mess you up. So I will keep my directions next to me, and I will make sure that, when I'm getting started, that I'm paying attention exactly to what I'm supposed to do. And then once I figure out what I need to do, then I'm taking it to my machine and I'm going to stitch it. Now, you could play the game of using clips if you like. I don't feel like using that many clips. Again, don't forget, you you chop that seam, so you don't want to pull your fabric because you'll pull the stitches in the seam. I just need to remember the black block needs to be on this side. Hey, Armina. And then I need to come here and remember if I need to flip it open, where that seam needs to go. Turn that to my machine the correct way. I really do leave the foot down, but sometimes, like this one, the black is on top rather than the pink. It doesn't matter as long as I put the right edge underneath to be stitched. And I am just going to go through and do all of these. I think I cut out a few extra, so I may actually be short, which is fine. And again, just paying attention to which way I'm going. Hey, Suzanne, how are you? Just take your time, line everything up. You don't want to pull. I do check to make sure because I pressed the seam to one side. It really wouldn't matter if you pressed it open. You want to make sure that you don't undo it and press your seam back towards you. So again, just kind of hold your fabrics up in the direction that you need it to go in. And trust me, even with me saying all this and paying attention, oh, there's bound to be one. There is bound to be one that I will have going in the wrong direction. It just so has to happen. It is so me to do it that way. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for tapping the screen. We are almost at 6,000. Thank you. And again, I'm not pulling the fabric because I want to make sure that as I am going, I am not pulling those seams out. Um, because I can, even if I do that, I can fix it, but it's a pain to fix it. If I turn all these in the right direction, I run a better risk of getting it right than getting it wrong. What I don't like about flipping the pink up this way is that I have to run over the seam allowance that's going, it's going this way, and the machine's going to want to push it back towards me. um, so I would prefer for it to be down, but that gives me a little bit more flexibility in paying attention to what I'm doing. So again, this is this way, so my seam allowance is at the bottom. I'm just flipping this over and chain stitching it right underneath the zipper foot. I mean the 1/4 inch foot. You could use a pointer. You could use a pair of tweezers if you like to get that under there if you know you don't have the nails or if you don't like your fingers that close to the machine. I'm not putting my fingers anywhere near the needle. It's sitting outside of the foot, but you know, to each his own, in terms of you know what you feel safe and comfortable with. But again, I'm lining everything up. I'm not going to pull that fabric. And actually, me holding that seam down, I can use my tweezers. And at the angle I'm at, you really can't see me using those tweezers just to help it go under the machine, underneath the foot. And I'm just basically holding my fabric straight. So I am not pulling my fabric. Again, if you pull the fabric, more than likely, hey JK, more than likely you will bust that seam out. And you don't want to bust the seam out. Um, usually I find that if I do pop those seams, it's usually like after I have the whole quilt together and I'm looking at it and I'm like, it came loose right there. And I will intentionally quilt over that area to lock that back down. So I will mark that area with a pin just to remind myself that that's where I popped the seam. And then I'll, whatever quilt design I do, I will make sure I just go over that so that that seam doesn't come loose any further as it's getting the wear and tear on. Now, if you're sending it to a long armor, they might not catch it. And you can absolutely go in, seam, you could seam rip right around it and then restitch. Okay. And again, like you see, some of these are turned in different directions. I want my black to be going over to the left. I am placing my strip down at the bottom, and then I am flipping it over so that my pink is the last thing to pass through the needle as I'm chain stitching. So that's helping me to remember order. And the great thing about this is that once all this is done, we're just basically putting together a four patch. So this is creating one of the patches for the four patch, or two of them, I should say, for the blacks, and then one for the pink and gray, and then the whole purple. So we're just basically making four patches. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you for tapping the screen. We are almost at 7,000. Okay. And we'll just let all of that fall. And again, if I were truly working a little bit faster, then I could go a little faster. Um, but I do like to take something slow. And I'm okay with it. This is, and again, my blacks are going to my left. Remember, when I cut these, I cut them face down. So I just need to make sure the black is going to the right side. There are times when I will cut and didn't realize that some of the selvage is there. If it's less than a quarter inch, I'm not worried about it. If it's greater than a quarter inch, then I can't use that piece, um, because number one, the white will show. And when you go to wash it over time, that selvage is not going to give like the rest of the fabric is. And you don't necessarily want it to be wonky. If I can figure out how to hide it, I will. Um, I was watching a video earlier, and the creator was talking about adding pieces on because you won't really see them. And I was like, you know what? She has a point. If I match it up, nobody's going to know, and they're not going to know that it wasn't intentional. Okay. So the only person that knows is me. And it depends on how much I really care, depending on what it looks like. If it doesn't look janky, I'm good. Now, if it looks janky, I can't. No, so I don't want something that looks bad or wasn't intended. I like to be proud of the work that I do, whether it's for myself, whether it's on display, whether it's a gift. Um, I do take pride in my work. So when I gift something, or in some cases, if somebody can convince me to sell it, um, I just want to make sure that I'm giving somebody quality. Um, and so I will, pay attention to those little details to see that, it makes sense. But, again, if it's just for me, I might just let it go. And again, we're just running this. There's no wrong or right color. As we were saying earlier, your stitches, number one, are not so far apart that there's a lot of pull when you are when you're using it. So for the most part, people are not going to notice that you used white thread or gray thread. There are so many colors in this quilt, you wouldn't be able to do it anyway. So real wrap, I could use black because this is black and pink, but right now I have gray in here. And one of the things about quilter's cotton, which is different from um, batik, is that quilter's cotton is basically the print is on one side of the fabric. So, what was the color of the fabric before they dyed it with the print? You can see it on the back of this black. It was white or gray. So, it's going to blend anyway in with the the thread count, the thread for your fabric. So you're really not even going to see that white. And for the most part, people are not pulling stitches um, to quilts. Like they're laying on top of the quilt. Unless you are stretching out and pulling at it at night, where like who's paying attention to a seam when they're sleeping, but you're not going to see those thread seams anyway, those threads that are in the seams. When you quilt it, you might use a fabric that is matching with what you have. So I could stitch pink over top of this. I could stitch black over top of this. I could do a silver thread over top of this. I could do a purple thread over top of this. So I could absolutely decide what thread I want on top, but you know, nobody's going to be looking. Now, here's the thing, right? I'm going to stay in the matchy matchy category. I'm not going to use orange, so you won't see me at any point switch like to an orange bobbin or orange thread, because if it's going to show through, I want it to match closely to the colors I have in the quilt. And so whites, grays, black, pink, those are okay to shine through. I would not want green to shine through because green is not in the quilt. So my thread colors, I have some variety and some choice, but then there are some obvious colors that I wouldn't use. I love like an old gold to quilt with. It's the thread I have most of, but with this one, I would not use an old gold. I would use again like a silver, a white, or a pink to quilt. But when I was out at the quilt shop, this was my purple. So I'm thinking about using this purple um, to quilt. So when I take it to the long arm, and actually the three quilts that I'm working on this week are all have purple in them. So that's why I was like, okay, let me go out and buy this expensive spool of thread because I'll be able to use it hopefully on all three quilts because I'm not doing a small design on any of these. It's going to be relatively large. Even though the angel one that I'm working on Friday, I may not use that. Okay. So again, flip. And this pile is slowly getting shorter, shorter, shorter. The other pile isn't quite as big because again, you only need one four patch. The black, you need two. Now, again, this is totally up to you how you do it. The directions tell you to make all the units at once, but if you're impatient like me and you made those blocks ahead of time, it still works that way as well. So you could stop, make a couple blocks just because you want to see how they're going to work out. And I believe Gigi Stitching is in the house. Okay. just taking my time again, lining everything up. And we're just working our way through this process. So I have two devices going, and I was like, I have the smaller. Don't ask me why. The smaller device is um is up is what I'm reading. So I don't know why. And my eyes are not what they used to be. So Gigi Stitching, this it's pattern again, Color Me Crazy by Gigi Stitching. And I went to the link that you gave me the other day, and so that link expired. So I couldn't post the link for everyone, but as soon as you give me that link, I will absolutely post it. So yes, I am on YouTube. I'm on YouTube as G Hale Designs. The link is in my bio, and I am streaming from there as well. So I am actually on YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok right about now. And so there's just a little different angle because I'm still getting comfortable with going live on multiple platforms and using multiple cameras. And then you see this pile is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But I love, like I said, once this is done, it's done. So I do love to do the chain stitching, um, opposed to the simpler blocks. And again, flip this over because I need to pay attention to what I'm doing. So thank you again, everyone. We are almost at 10,000 likes. Thank you so much. I appreciate everyone. Um, I appreciate you for hanging in, for asking questions. Um, I appreciate the gifts, the daily heart means. Thank you so much. But I am just again working through this. So, oh, okay. So the new thing with TikTok is not the puzzle piece anymore. It's this drag the slider to make the puzzle fit. And then they give you these impossible things that don't look like they fit. And I'm like, okay, for real? So, but I got it. And I got it on the first try, which is a miracle. Okay. So, if there's any way that somebody could make my life more difficult, then that was it. The puzzle piece was bad enough, and okay, and then it still didn't go for some reason. Okay, let's try that again. I thought I got it. I thought it looked right. There it is. Okay. Hey, Miss Janine. So again, wasn't paying attention. Okay, got it at the bottom. So my pattern is sitting in front of my machine, and that way I am referring to the pattern as I go. Because even if I wasn't running my mouth and stitching and looking at screens and interacting with comments, even if I wasn't doing that, the TV would be on. And there would always be something that would be distracting me. And yeah, so this way I am, paying attention because I have to look down at that pattern, pay attention to what the pattern is telling me to do because that picture that I absolutely love is staring me in my face. one of the things that I do love about new patterns versus some of the older ones is that folks are intentional with pictures. There are some patterns where people are not as intentional with pictures, and they do the videos to show you how um, to put together the objects or the things that we're making. And I appreciate those as well because I'm a visual learner. I don't like to read, right? Dr. Jen does not like to read. And if I can do something and just look at the pictures, I am a happy camper. If I can follow along with the video, oh, I am in Joyland. I love, first of all, because the video I can go back, which I do. I scroll back and forth in that video to find exactly where I need to be to see whatever it is that they're telling me to do. Because no matter how many times somebody says to do something, it doesn't make sense. So it makes better sense to me when I can see it. So I prefer to see it than to read it. And this is, like I said, this one is perfect because I can look right down at that pattern and I can see exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And then, you know, I don't like the tips and tricks come from like the video. So there's no piece that I wouldn't expect in to be in the pattern that says don't pull because you'll loosen up your stitches. So there's nothing that's in there that's going to say that. But, you know, for me, now this one is the reverse, so now the top is up top and the blocks are down the bottom. But again, we're going to look at the picture. Ooh. Make sure we're setting that up right because I didn't. But again, we're looking at the picture. We're making sure that it's going in the right direction. Now, I will say this fabric looks the same on both sides. There is a distinct difference with the gray, and I'm telling you, if I had like used half my mind, I would not have gotten. I love this type of fabric, but I wouldn't have got this just because I am driving myself bananas to see which side is the right side of the fabric. And it's okay. I'm used to doing it, but there are a couple pieces where I messed up and it's not on the right side. But because it's so close, nobody's going to be able to see it. So I'm not even worried about it. Had to make sure that was right. And again, when I sew this now, if I do the gray on top, the pink is still down at the bottom. So the gray is up top. And actually, I prefer this. This one is not backwards to me when I'm putting this through. And again, I love the seam to be on the bottom because it's just going to run right through and I don't have to think about it. But that's just the way that I have it set up. My pink now is going to my right instead of my left. I pressed all of my seams to the dark side, especially if I could help it with this gray fabric because the gray fabric is so light that that pink is going to show through, but it may be unavoidable at some point. Again, there aren't as many. I think there's only 20 blocks. and I've already made 5, so there's only about 15 of these that I have to do. So this pile isn't as big as the other one that was 30. That girl Yaya, how are you doing? I have a sneaky suspicion. I already know. Some of my friends, they have names that, it's like, yeah, that's them. And again, I'm just flipping. And once this is done, with the exception of the border, and we may end up doing a part 2 for that border. And so we may just get the body squares done today. But it'll depend on how I feel. Um, and again, I just have to pay attention to my sides. First of all, I haven't been on that long, so I have nerve to be sitting here acting like this took forever. This is not right. Okay. And I knew it wasn't right because my pink was not at the bottom. So I could just pull that thread out because I don't have enough in there. So I told myself the pink should be at the bottom. And when that pink wasn't at the bottom, oops, and I knew it wasn't at the bottom because my seam was going in a different direction. And I pressed all my seams to the pink side. So that means the foot should run right over the seam, not push the seam back. And I was like, you know what, girl, you messed up. But that's pretty good because considering that I did about 35, no, that's not 30. Yeah, about 35 of the black ones and didn't mess up on any of those so far that I can detect. So I've only messed up on one gray one. Not bad. Not bad at all, girl. Not bad. And again, just as a reminder, these were subcut. And because they were subcut, that means that the seams are very weak on the ends. And you don't want to do a lot of pulling. Hi, Liz. You don't want to do a lot of pulling because if you do a lot of pulling, then your seams will start to separate. And that'll just create problems for you later. Hey, Granny B's Crochet. Okay, and again, just paying attention to the gray because it looks the same on both sides, and I want to make sure that I have the right side up. Good evening, Sweet Pea. Okay, yep. This one is in this direction. So, yep, we're good. This one, the other one's turning in the wrong direction. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone who is still hanging out with me. Thank you for everyone who has got me to 10K likes. I appreciate it. Just keep tapping that screen. Really helps with the engagement. Talking also helps, but I don't have a problem not doing it. Because like I told one class, I taught a college course, and I told them we're here for 4 hours, and either you can talk to me or I can talk to you, and understand how I can make 4 hours work. So You know, they had a conversation because they knew they didn't want to hear um, me babble on and on and on for 4 hours. Because I can. I can go. So for me to be on social media, hey Sarah, um, talking like this is nothing because I don't have a problem talking. We're working on the Color Me Silly. Actually, it's Color Me Silly 2. It is a quilt by Gigi Stitching. The other one turned out pretty good. I did a pink and green one in honor of Wicked. I called it a Wicked inspired quilt. And I did that in pink and green. And so now I am doing this one in pink, black, gray, and purple. So the pattern that GD Stitching did was green, like a light green, a dark green, a cream, and a black. I decided to go with three different colors. I could have did a dark pink and a light pink, but I felt like I had already done that with the pink and green one, so I didn't want to do another one. It was just like that. Okay. Keep your snips close. Now, there are gadgets that you can use. This is the quilt. Let me back up for a second. So this is the quilt that I am making right now, and we are working on the center blocks. Oh, I just noticed. And I know because I made this, but this block should be black right there. So, let me get a pen. This should be gray there, black. There should be, this one should be black, but I'm just going to circle that one and just make a note so that when she digitizes that pattern, I don't know if the whole thing, this whole center piece, the layout is off. And it's only, I think, on, now it's on this one too. Okay. Let me just make a note of that. And that's why I'm trying it out. And it's only on that direction, but that's important. And it's on the main one as well. But that's important for folks because when you're going to lay that out, you want to make sure, you know, that anybody who's reading it will be able to follow it. And so they might not go back to the front. So that needs to be fixed. Okay, so back to these. You could buy a gadget that will allow you just to take these and push them right into the knife, and that will help you just to chain piece clip. I don't have one of those, even though I was looking at them. I don't necessarily need that, but you know, if you're a gadget person and you like gadgets, you can absolutely do that. I like these snips. I think that these snips work just as well for me because I can just hold them in my hand, go right in between each of those, and then just clip. And again, it doesn't matter right now how I'm clipping those out. I'm gonna have to take these and then press them. So let's move this out the way as well because we're gonna have to set that iron back up. And so I'll move my ironing board back here again. Okay, so how is everyone doing today? While I am clipping and getting ready to iron. Um, let's just engage a little bit. But is there anybody else out there that is sewing? or are you doing anything in particular? I know that it is 10:18 on Eastern Standard Time. Some of us may have to go to work in the morning, so we just may be watching until we wind down. But is there anybody else out there that is sewing or crafting or cooking? Are you doing something during this time that while you're looking at the live? Okay. And we're just clipping here again. Hi, Miss A. How are you? And they, now, of course, the clipping is going to go much faster. I just had my first machine and I've only hem curtains. Good job. Good job. And then some clothes. Awesome. Smokey, how are you doing? Thank you, thank you, thank you for coming in. You're sewing jeans. Of course you are, Anna. Thank you, Sarah. I try to find things that other people would want to do. As soon as she gets the pattern up, I will do a spot in my videos for the link to her site if you're interested in purchasing it. And don't give me a reason to do another sew along if you buy the pattern because I have plenty of fabric. Sassy Quilter is working on a quilt top right now. Of course you are. That's why you're the Sassy Quilter. Because that's what we do. Again, this is, you're going to decide how you want to do this. You can either open up um, your seams and press them open, or you can press them to one side. So I am making a quilt. And I'm also going through the pattern, almost like pattern testing it. I've already done this once. The pattern itself works. There are a couple little suggestions, but I did notice something with the layout of this. So I do want to bring that to her attention. But we are making this. This is called Color Me Silly 2 because there was a 1. She made some changes in the pattern. And so I'm working through those changes right now. A three star. Oh, wait a minute. Just did 3-star quilts. Okay. I was like, what is a 3-star quilt? But you just did 3-star quilts. Awesome. I'm going to have 3 done by the end of this week. So this is going to be a productive week for me while I am off. Um, I made a dress for the military ball last week. So I am back to quilting this week. That dress almost took me out. I had to think about it. Hi Tammy, how are you? And to know me is to know I don't like to think. But I wear the oversized dress a lot at work by Nikki of Beauty du Jour. And I was like, you know what? You're not going to get away with wearing another one like that. So you need to make a different dress. So I pulled out a retro pattern and then it didn't go high enough up to my size, so I had to alter it. I was like, girl, this is too much. How am I coming along with my long arm? I am doing well with it. Um, do I use it as much as I should? No. And that's because I haven't finished as many quilt tops as I should. These are some that I need to finish, so I will probably take these to the long arm. The quilt that I'm doing on Friday, I'm still debating whether I want to do that on the long arm or not. There's a lot of applique, and I can kind of control my domestic machine a little bit better than I can the long arm to do what I want to do with it. But I'm loving my long arm. Um, I should have made that decision a lot sooner. And to be honest with you, you know, like I know that some people have a price point. Mine was never a price point. Mine was being cheap. I was like, I don't need this. Like the price was going to go down. Like, how much is it now? The price is not going down. Now I could have found a used one, but oh, you just got a long arm. Okay, Sassy, I have a Bernina Q16. So on my quilt shop hop excursion last summer, um, I went to a quilt shop and I was talking about that Bernina, and those guys had me sit down and made me an offer that clearly I could not refuse, and that's why it's in this house. Hi, Angie. How are you? And yes, ma'am, cancer does suck. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for the daily heart me. Okay. I do use a dry iron 9 times out of 10. Usually, if you see water in the iron, it's because I do use this for dual purpose. So I use it for my garments. If I have clothes downstairs and I'm running to work, I use it to iron my clothes. I do have an iron upstairs just for clothes, but sometimes it's downstairs. If it's at the last minute and I'm running out the door, I don't got time to run upstairs when I have an iron right here. I did the same thing in my local quilt shop. I bought the demo. Yes, yes, that's what I'm saying. An offer I couldn't refuse. Thank you. Which shop hop are you going to do? Is it a one of the state shop hops, or is it a local shop hop? The Mid Atlantic shop hop, they had nerve to go up to 126 shops. I was like, are they crazy? And you know, and I say that as I'll be the crazy one trying to go to all 126 of them. But I may not do that. Yes, I am a big fan of local quilt shops because they are small businesses, and the only way to stay in business is to support them. I also like local quilt shops because if you go into Hobby Lobby now, because we can't go into Joann's anymore, but if you go into Hobby Lobby, Hobby Lobby is not going to have a quilt up. Hey, Shamir, they're not going to have a quilt up, hanging up in the store, showing you what you can make with your fabric. So there's no inspiration. For the most part, they don't even have quilt patterns there. And then the people who work there may know how to cut the fabric, and I say may, but they sometimes don't know anything about the fabric and they don't know anything about quilts. So they sit there and they say, what are you making? And I say a quilt, and they're like, oh, nice. It's not like, oh, I quilt too. So I like the quilt shops because I like going places that have specialty, that specialize in things. And so I know I can go there, I can talk shop, we can talk about our machines, we can talk about our tools, we can talk about fabric. If I am making something, I can take my quilt with me. They can help me with suggestions because they know their stuff. Oh, okay. Yeah, the books aren't. I'm not sure when the New England one starts yet. I know that the Mid Atlantic isn't coming until May, and I wanted like to do another one. Like I wouldn't mind going up to Massachusetts, but I know I don't need to. So, Anna J, did you finish? Are you finished for because it'll be the end of the month, or did you do all of the shops? Yes, making those connections. And you also meet other quilters. So I like that as well. I like meeting other quilters. Um, and, again, like connecting, talking about, what we do, and getting ideas and suggestions from them as well. Like, you don't have that community in person. Um, The quilt shops also offer classes, which is great. Um, so if there's a technique that you want to learn, you can absolutely take a class and learn that technique if it's close enough. Sometimes it's not close enough. How many regions were in the shop hop? Was it how many regions did you have? So you will be done with the whole region. And that's good because you can go in the drawing for that region and you'll get the patch for that region. 12 shops. Okay. I say I have to get you to join the dark side, get you to go to like 50 shops. No. I was off all summer and I was like those I was mad jealous at the people who did all 96. I was like I could have done that. But no. I didn't pack and spend the night somewhere. And I really don't want to do it this year because some of them I've already now been to. Like, I don't want to go back to the same ones that I went to before, especially because there's some that I did not see. So I do want to spend some time at the ones I didn't see. Look, West Virginia for me was far, far. I went to Virginia, but West Virginia was far, far. And I was traveling by myself. In West Virginia, a lot of those were in the Hicks. And all my friends were like, you need to go there by yourself. You don't know who these people are. Look, I said, you should be in some of these ones in Pennsylvania that were in the Hicks. The ones in Maryland weren't too bad. Um, the ones in Delaware weren't bad at all. Um, they were they're like more in like the city or like an open area. The ones in PA, the ones in Jersey, even if they were out, were still like city-ish. The Pennsylvania ones and what would have been the ones in West Virginia, yeah, it was like trees and like dirt roads and like you better make sure you got a tank of gas because I don't know if AAA goes out that far. And I'm sure they do, but it might be hours. Like it's hours in the city before they get to me. So I didn't want to know how long it was going to take for them to get to me out in the sticks. And my girlfriend, she didn't do as many as I did, but she's retired, so she took one of her nieces and they went. Um, so she traveled separately from me. Whenever I post that I'm going on a shop hop, she's right behind me. That's right. That's what I'm saying. Like, you're out somewhere and, like even Lancaster, like I like the Lancaster quilt places, but even there, like it's a lot of farmland. And it's like there's no gas station, there's no food. So it was like, girl, pack your food, pack something to drink because and make sure you got some money because you in your credit card because you don't know where you might end up. Hi Renee, how are you? But I enjoyed what I enjoy about the quilt shops and doing the hops is that each shop was different. So when I went to the shops, the looks are different. It's not like walking in Joann's and if you've seen one, you've seen them all. So you go into the shop, and some of the shops specialize in different things. So one shop had like you walked in, Ruby Society was the first thing you saw. And, it seemed like that's what they specialized in. Not necessarily my cup of tea, but, I was like, wow. And I did buy some fabric. I used it for the Wicked from Ruby Society. But, that's not me. I like the more whimsical, plain looking things. I'm not necessarily into prints. But I went in that shop, and then there were other shops that were just like there were quilts for days, and I was like, want to make that one, I want to make that one, I want to make that one. And depending on, like, my whole thing was, if you want me to spend my money, then I need you to give me some sense of customer service. I don't need you to follow me around the shop, but like a greeting when I come in the door, how may I help you? Here's like easy things, like here's the bathroom. um one shop was like, here's some water, we have snacks and candy. Not that I needed that candy and snacks, but I love the fact that they were more than welcome and inviting when you came in. And so it made it worth it to go there, and it was even more worth it to go back. So I've been, I'm not riding all the way to Maryland unless I'm going to Maryland or Virginia. Like, I have to be in those areas to go there. I'm not just going there just to go there, just to go to the shop, because I'm passing so many other shops that are going to have what I want while I am driving all the way to Virginia. But if I'm in the Virginia area, or if I know people that are in the Virginia area, if I had a good shop experience, then absolutely I am going to sing the praises of the shop and say, hey, you need to go there because they were absolutely fabulous. Um, the shop owner was wonderful. So even for Small Business Saturday? Um, I was going to buy fabric, and I was going to go out of the house and go fabric shopping in at one of my local shops. And I was like, why am I doing that? First of all, it was November, it was cold. But then, more important than that, why go if I can do it at home? So I contacted the local quilt shop that I went to, and she's about 2 hours away. They were near Scranton, PA. So she's about 2 hours away, which means that she's not on the beaten path for me to go to that quilt shop to get fabric. I had already been there once, and I loved it. She was a fellow educator, so that she got brownie points for that. And I just really, I said, I want to support her. So I called. Well, I call her, text her. I messaged her. So when I messaged her, I said, look, I'm ready to spend some money, and I'm not driving all the way up there because it's just far. But if you have time to FaceTime me, or let's do a Zoom, I can buy some fabric from you that way. And absolutely, we got on live that Saturday. Probably that Saturday, it was like right around 1 o'clock, I guess. About 1 o'clock, and she walked me back through the store. I was already familiar with the store from the shop hop, and I was like, I'm gonna need that, and that. So probably about $1.50 later, yeah, that fabric was on its way to my house. But I love the fact that I could support her, and I gave her another way that she could sell her fabric, because she did not think about using um, FaceTime, or any sort of digital video system to walk somebody around her shop. And it was like, yeah, uh-huh. And I'm gonna make it worth your while, because I'm not buying one piece of fabric and having it sent to my house. I'm gonna be buying multiple pieces of fabric. Okay, so I have separated these out, and I laid them out in the direction that they're going to go. Remember, I said This is nothing more right now than a 4 patch. So each of the blocks have been created. We needed two of the black and reds, one of the gray and reds, and then the solid purples. Now everything again is going to get chain stitched together. So we're going to take these two and overlap them, and then we'll take these two and overlap them, and then take them to the machine. So we can start with, and this pile just feels a little heavier than this one. So if I need it, I'll switch over once I run out, but we'll start with these. Actually, I could do it the other way. That would be smarter. So I'll do one each, just because then they'll all be lined up. Okay, so again, I'm going to take it back to my machine. This time I do have a seam in the center that I do want to be aware of when I'm stitching. Because if I can line those two up, either through nesting or just by laying them out correctly, I won't have staggered seams. This one, it doesn't matter because this purple is a solid block. So all I need to do is just make sure it's in the right direction. And that's why it's important to lay this out if you can, because then you can see it and guarantee that you're doing it the way it's supposed to go. So once this is done, all 20 blocks will be done for the inner part of the quilt. And then I just need to work on the border, and then this will be done. Well, two borders, but one border you're not piecing. So again, for this one, I need these two to line up as best as possible. And my fabrics are both going in the same direction the seams are. I can either use my fingers if I'm steady enough, or I can use a clip to hold them in place. Totally up to you which way you prefer to go. But again, if you take your time, it doesn't matter which way you go. And again, don't pull your fabric. So by doing each one at a time instead of just doing the whole one pile together, when I do these, the blocks will be together. But again, I want to make sure, because in running my yik yak, I do want to make sure that I am doing these right. Because again, remind you, and this is not with me running my mouth, this is with me just not paying attention. I will absolutely go in the wrong direction because that's what I do. And it doesn't make a difference whether it's the purple one and the black and pink, or whether it's the black and pink and the pink and gray. I will go in the wrong direction for either one of them. Just because you have to pay attention to the way that those blocks are going in order to make sure your final block sets up the way you need it to. Hi, Gim. How are you doing today or tonight? I think everybody is in night now, so even in Cali, you guys are at 7, so you're evening more than night. Okay, and we are right there with that one. We are up to 10.5K. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you again for tapping the screen. I did catch a little bit of that selvage, but it's on the inside, so I'm not worried about it. But next time I could do go a little on the outside to avoid that. As much as possible, you don't want that in any part of your quilt if you can help it, unless it's intentional. And it was not intentional. But when you're cutting out so many pieces and you don't cut the selvage off in the beginning, sometimes that happens. And that's the reason why some people cut their selvage off in the beginning so that they don't make the same mistakes I make. How are you doing today, Sherry? Okay. So, what I will probably do is do all of these blocks because I'll be done these blocks in about 10 minutes. Um, and then I will probably do another one, another live where I put the borders on. So I probably won't do that tonight because somebody's trash day is tomorrow and somebody has a lot of trash that they need to get on that curb. And even though they're not working in the morning, they also have an event that they need to cook for at least 50 people for Saturday, and they have not shopped yet either. So someone is behind in her responsibilities. Um, but I will. So I am starting another quilt. Believe it or not. Um, is it full quilts and gifts? How are you doing? So I do have that one that I need to finish. Um, I will be working on that on Friday with the quilting. So it might not have the binding on it, but it'll be quilted. So that one will be quilted. And oh no, I'll be working on a different one tomorrow just because that's the one I said I was going to work on. So I won't do this one tomorrow. I may come back to do like a sew on Saturday, either on, I'll join my friends on Clapper, or I'll come on to this platform and do it on here on Saturday. On Sunday, I'll be going live. We're making a tote bag. I did some preparation for the bag already, so I'll be ready for that one. I'm going to be using orphan blocks. So traditional people will make a bag with just the fabric, but it's a great way to use up your scraps or your orphan blocks. And orphan blocks are those blocks that are left over after you have used up all of the blocks that you needed for a quilt. So maybe the quilt called for 14 blocks and you made 15. Maybe you wanted to test out the block before you made it for your quilt, and so that poor little block, which looks good, is sitting by its lonesome and you don't know what to do with it, and so you could absolutely use it for a tote bag. Hi, Summer. Summer Breeze. Summer Bree. Okay. And so we have this one. And again, I am lining up that center seam because I do want, and I will be the first one to tell you, well, sometimes those seams don't always line up. If I were gifting it, I don't care if they're not too far off. If I am selling it, I would care that those seams don't line up. And that's just me, because that's the perfectionist in me, for wanting somebody who is buying something from me to have what they're, what they're paying for. Even though most of the people that are paying for stuff are not really paying what they should be paying. So they got a nerve to be picky. But so far, I haven't had that problem because I don't sew for everybody. Hi, Sam. How are you? Okay. Did I go? I went live this morning, right when I cut this out. So I know this app is like, what? It was like twice in one day. Okay, I feel the purple pile getting lighter. It's getting lighter. I could probably, in my mind, this has to be more than 15. So there are 15 blocks altogether that I still had to do. I already finished 5 of them earlier. Um, and that's just because I got a little, I wanted to make sure that I understood the pattern before I got on live, because I didn't want to embarrass um, the quilt designer by doing it wrong. So if there was something that didn't make sense or that I had a quick question for, I could have sent her a message and said, hey, this isn't necessarily straight. Can you tell me, what's what? Um, and then that way, we could fix it before I got on here and said the wrong thing. And it's okay to make the mistakes, but I don't like to dog anybody out. And like, this pattern is terrible. Not that this one is, because I'm making it for the second time, but sometimes when you're messing up, or you have so many mistakes, or there's an error or something goes wrong, you get frustrated, and then that frustration comes out of your mouth, and you didn't intend it to, and the damage is done at that point. So sometimes I like to do a trial run just to make sure that I'm clear as to what I'm doing. It also helps me to make sure that, like I said, that I know what I'm talking about. When I say we're going to do it this way, especially because some designers will do it a different way. And if I'm going to switch up the way that they do it, I want to be able to speak to why I'm switching up. And I have I don't know why I have so many black ones. I wonder if I have some of these missing somewhere. I thought I grabbed them all. And the only reason why I'm thinking that is because I see 2 extra purple ones and not enough of these, but there would have been no reason that I would have made extra. And the purple, I should have made exactly enough of them. But if I have to go back and make another one, I will. And again, I'll do that off, because I'll just finish these blocks today, and then I will see, where I goofed up. But the blocks are fine. It's just the number is off, and I'm not sure why. But that's because Jennifer didn't count the blocks like she was supposed to. She counted some of them, but she didn't count all of them. So because she didn't count all of them, she's missing. she's possibly missing some of the blocks. But I may not be missing the blocks if when I count these out, I have 15. So if I have 15 of these, then I'm good. If I don't have 15 of these, then, and I'm missing one, then that's where it is. So there are some extra blocks. Like I do have these two here. Um, and so it's possible that I may not have cut two extra, no, I wouldn't need two, I only need one. So I may not have cut enough, but I'll find out. So when I do the next part of this, which is the final part for making the block, then I will know if I miscounted. Okay, so I now have three of these, one of these left. And that could just be because I cut too many. So there was a point when I was cutting that I wasn't paying attention to something, and I think I cut more than what I needed to cut. It's possible that I did cut an extra one of these. I'm not sure, but we'll find out. Like I said, if I did, then this one and this one go together. These are two extra blocks, and we'll use this for something else. And if you know, you know, this looks almost like that African Queen block, except for the face wouldn't be red or pink. Okay, so these two, I'm going to clip these together. And so the other thing about me is that, and I said this earlier, my fabric has legs. So there's also the possibility that something walked. But I have this left. This is for my corner. I have this. This is for the border. And these are for the border. So these are all the pieces I have left. Good night, Jim. Oh no, wait a minute. Good night, Anna. Good night, Anna. Thank you for hanging out with me for your night of going to work tomorrow. So again, we're just going to clip these. Now these are, oh, okay. Now I set this up for myself and then clipped it wrong. I'm clipping every two. So every two will be a unit. That way I'm keeping everything together. So I took this unit apart because you know it's time to iron. Now, I will show you that you don't have to iron it. First of all, does it look the way it's supposed to? Yeah. I could finger press this and then iron later. So this seam is going up, so this seam goes down. So I'm pressing to the black and pink. I need a couple clips because I wasn't using clips before, but I do need to use clips here. I want to clip that center seam. This one is just going to have a clip just because. And then this one is going to have a clip because there's another seam that meets up here. And I'm going to make sure that that seam is nested. So I have 3 clips. And I'm going to take this to the machine. And now we're sewing the block together. I can back stitch if I choose. This is going to hold everything the way that it's supposed to go until I get close enough to it. Then I can take that one out, run over it. Now this is just me not wanting to pull out a whole bunch of clips, because I could absolutely clip these all at one time and then just run it all through. Okay, we're going to clip apart the two. If I did the sewing correct on these, then if I open these up, notice how they're still chained together, but they're in the right order. That's not going to be every one, trust me. But that means that I can just lay this, I don't even have to clip that center seam. I can line them up. I can send those seams to either side, give it just a little bit of a finger nudge, clip. Clip again here. Shamir, how much of your project did you get done? Did you get everything done? Because I watched you up until about 7:50. No, 8:50. And then I was like, you need to act like you got to set up. I'm going to back stitch a little bit. And I know y'all are getting on to do an easy tent dress that ain't nobody asked me if I wanted to make. But I'm not bitter. It's a fat girl's dream to make a tent dress. Okay, and then clip. And again, if I did it right, they're in the center. You can see it. I can see the, flip this over. Don't even have to clip that one. And again, match up these seams. I'm sending my seams to the black side. Like the black side, like, remember back in the day, give me 5 on the black hand side, through the hole, you know you got soul. Okay, let me tell my age, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you for tapping the screen. We are almost at 12,000. Okay. And again, I will probably go offline to square these up. I don't know. What did I count? One. See how you lose count? 1, 2, 3. 3. That was it. This is 4. And I'm still doing good. And I didn't intend this, right? I wasn't even paying attention. I knew that I was chain stitching them, but I really wasn't paying attention to how I did it. Make sure everything is lined up and run it through. And again, this is one of those little tips or tricks that you have that has nothing to do with the pattern itself. It has everything to do with just like little tips and tricks that you learn along the way when you're quilting and you're working with quilters, and they'll teach you how to do that. And again, I'm just opening it up, making sure that it looks the way it's supposed to look. Again, you can add as many clips as you like. I am not doing a bunch of clips because I can get the first one in that center. If I nudge that, get that nested, everything else should be okay. This is the other seam here that needs to nest, but I'm holding that with my fingers as it's going through the machine. So I'm not worried about that coming out as I'm sewing. It's that center one because I have to get to it first. And I want to make sure that everything is done the right way. Okay. Now, one of these is guaranteed not to be in the right order. Hi, Patty. How are you? Patty K1. Okay. And we'll place that one under there. Shamir, you had me go right down that rabbit hole yesterday when you sent me that live. I was like, why is she still up? Why is she sharing lives with me at like 2 o'clock in the morning? And then I had the nerve to go on to it, and I had the nerve to interact. I have sometimes when I do this, I get that little loop gets caught in the 1/4 inch edge, and I just have to relieve it. He is. I just try to make sure that when I'm interacting with folks that they're not. Some of them, didn't vote the way that the 92% voted. And there's one that I'm just like, I'm not following him. But yeah, he's pretty good. So it just took a minute for me to warm up to him. Make sure, because I had one. I was following her, and when her political views came out, I was like, unfollow. And you get to pick your view, not a problem. But if you're going to talk about it on social media, I don't want to hear it. So be you, be great, but I just feel like we're not connecting for some reason when your views are not similar to mine. If you're not going to talk about it, I don't have to know. Hey, Julian. Hey, Latoya. Okay. And we are zipping through these blocks. So again, this is the beauty of that chain piecing piece, because now these blocks are together. I will press them offline. And I will come back. I'll show you the row just so that you see it, because of course I did one. Now tomorrow I'm not going to be as prepared, because that would mean that I would have to do that work tonight, even though it is not beneath me to stay up. But I needed a nap when I got home today. Is it caught? Yeah, it's caught in there. That's what it is. Okay. Shamira, I know you have a lot to do, but you know, we're just making tote bags on Sunday. I'm just saying. We're doing Quilters Edition. Oh, I did tell you that because you were talking about bordering out your wicket. I thought about using it for the tote bag and doing a Glinda side and a alphabet side. So I'm still thinking about that. Um, I don't know if I want to take all that hard work and put it in a bag. So I'm debating. I'm still on the fence about that one, but I have enough blocks to make a bag that it's not even funny. How long did I stay on? Girl, I think I fell asleep. Um, Probably watching him. Um, but he was cutting out 50. He was ironing 50 billion pieces of fat quarters, and for somebody that's only been quilting, I think it was either 2 or 3 years. I was like ambitious, because yeah, no, no, no. I would not have been doing that my second or third year. I don't want to do that now in this year. I was like, them little bitty bitty pieces. I was like, mm. And his, like, he was calming and soothing, and I was sitting there interacting like I didn't have to get up in the morning to go to the dentist to be reamed out by them. And I tell them when I go to them, they torture me. They were like, we don't torture you. I was like, yes, you do. That's why I don't like going to the dentist. But I go because one time I missed an appointment. This was over 20 years ago, I think. And they had to do what was called bleeding your gums. And I was like, never again. I will be, yep, I'm exactly one short. So I have this one. And it's interesting because here it is. Don't ask me how I did that. But I'll get that one done in a second. So I don't know. I must have started it off when I did these. I don't mind, like, I don't want to sit there and have my mouth forced open, and I don't want to do all that. I don't mind clean teeth. I don't mind the feel of my teeth after they've been cleaned. But sitting there and having them do all that, and that work, I'm like, and it's not a lot of work, but it's just the fact that they have to do it and and pull my teeth mouth open. I'm like, no. I think, where do I go? Every six months? Oh, right, that's right. I sat right there, looked at that bobbin, and then came right down to the edge of it. I sat right there and looked at it. I sat right there and looked at the bobbin. I was wondering what that squeaky noise was. And it's getting caught up in the other thread, so it's not even out. But that's okay. Because somewhere I have another bobbin. Yeah, my dentist. So when I first started going to Dr. Spiller, Dr. Spiller was cute. And if there's nothing else that is going to get me to go to a doctor, it's a doctor that I can sit there and look at the entire time That, I mean, because you easy on the eyes, and it's like, yes, whatever you want. How wide do you want my mouth to open up? Oh, what do you want me to do? You want me to scooch down? He was married, and it wasn't like that. It's just the thought of it. So all my doctors are men, just about. And don't let them be cute. My my primary is a female. Hey Nina, my primary is a female, and yeah, they're just like, so are you getting your flu shot? And I'm like, yep. And I'm getting my flu shot because, hi Nina, I'm getting my flu shot because my doctor said get it. And I said, like, she scares me. And so I do whatever she tells me to do because I'm scared not to. Now, that doesn't mean that I've gotten that colonoscopy done yet. Um, and I do have to schedule it. So I'm not going to not get it, but I did everything else. So that's the last thing that I need to get done from her, for her, before my appointment. But my appointment isn't coming up anytime soon. I told you there was going to be one that was going to be backwards. I'll come to that one in a minute. I'll just have to separate that out, which is not a problem. And then I just have that one that I have to go back and do. And then I will be finished all of my blocks for this evening. And then I will, again, I'll show you the border. I started sewing the blocks together, so I did chain piece all of the triangles together. So when I do get to doing the border, it won't take me long. I'm just not going to sit up tonight and do the border. So I've already been on 2 hours. I appreciate everyone who has hung with me for 2 hours. And I know that folks have to go to bed. So I do want to show that border and do it justice. So I will hold off on doing that. Oh, I'm telling you, when I go to that retreat, I'm going to be on live all day. Like, this is what I'm doing now. Even though it was kind of loud, I'm going to get a noise canceling mic or something. Cause I'm newsy. I want to know what they're doing. They holding out on me. They're not sharing. Like, I don't want to see the pictures afterwards. I want to know now. I want to know what they're working on. I want to know what they're doing. I want to see the projects. Okay. So we have all the blocks are finished. And again, if I can find the end of the chain, so they just need to be pressed. Again, I'll do that offline. So that is the block. And I had the one that I couldn't figure out why I had extra purple. And this is why. Exactly. Like, I'm newsy. I want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. They act like sewing, like they sewing something. I mean, you don't have to show me the ceremony or the off the hook stuff. I just want to see what they're sewing. I want all the bag girlies up there. I want to see the bags. I want some inspo. But it's Shamir, and so let's be clear, Miss. Oh, she better be doing a quilt. Um, I did go on to YouTube tonight, so I did do that because you harassed me on Monday. Was it Monday? Monday. You harassed me, so it is on there. I'm there. Um, it is on Riverside. Oops. Of course, that thread came out. And I'm also on Twitch. Yep, that's because I said whatever I do, that quilt they better have enough of a design wall for me because I'm doing a quilt. We ain't doing no clothes. I could, but I'm not doing no clothes. I'm doing a quilt. And I feel some kind of way that Miss Avis went now. She should have went in the summertime so that she could have been there with me working on our quilts. Look, because you harassed me, and I can't use the word that begins with a B and a U because I'll get dinged for it. But you know that's what you are, Shamir. Okay. So all of the blocks are done for this. Again, I will press everything out so that everything is nice and neat and pressed. I will do that off camera. Hey, Miss Levette, how are you? I will do all of that off camera to get all of that done. So then when that's done, then the borders are next, and this is the border. So there is some work because there are these triangles. This is a triangle here. This is not a box. It's a triangle. And I want to say when we did this, and I have to go back and look at the pattern, I don't remember there being a seam here. So I want to say that this was a box in itself, a block, and then we added this on either side to create the seam allowance here. I want to say that's the way we did this one, but I'll have to check. Okay, so that's the border. Um, there is so this is called Color Me Silly. Let me pull up, let me pull her cutting directions off. Let me fold those in half. And so this is Color Me Silly, and it is similar to it's the same layout that I did for the Wicked Inspired. Um, so the border is the moment for me. So all those triangles and things, those are absolutely the that's like that was the thing that got me. So I love how this absolutely looks. It is, it's not that hard to make. It makes a fairly decent sized quilt. And one of the things that I like the black and white. So, one of the things that quilters will do is we'll look at our colors in black and white because you can see like the color values a little bit better. So, it helped me to think about like what colors would go well with this, and I could see the grays and I could see the pink and I could see the where the purple was going to go. Like it just made sense once I put it together and saw it this way rather than looking at her greens, because the greens just threw me off. I love it in green, but because I wasn't using that color, I opted for looking at this in the black and white. Okay, but again, this is Color Me Silly. It's Color Me Silly 2. So Color Me Silly 1 was the original pattern that I did use for the Wicked Inspired quilt. So Um, she did some work with revamping the quilt pattern, and I was like, absolutely, I'll do that quilt again and test your pattern out for you. So I'm doing this one, and I'm doing it again with the changes that she made. They're minimal. There was some changes with how we cut it out. There's some changes with the layout around the border, and she added the extra border. So my tests, my Muslims, like your Muslims or wearable Muslims, this is a wearable quilt, right? There's nothing that's really going to be wrong with this. There are some spaces where I'm not sure if I did something wrong or if it's the way the pattern was written. And so I do have a question for her. So I will ask that question before I start this up again. I'm in a good place. The blocks were fine. The blocks were the same blocks as before. So it's in the border. So this, like, I don't call it a test because I knew it was going to work. And even when I do the pattern testing, yeah, I'm using that quilt next to dumb stuff. So even like that one that I did that looks like paper piecing but isn't, I absolutely plan to use that block because yeah, fabric isn't cheap, and to make something like this, yeah. So I could absolutely buy fabric on sale and use something in my stash. But this called for like a yard and a half, almost 2 yards of specific prints. And when you're buying quilters cotton, even if it's in your stash, if you have, let's say, 7 yards of fabric, starting at 10 a yard, that's a lot of money to not use it. So I'm always going to use whatever I make, and I'm gonna make it work. So there, like I said, there's nothing wrong with the way that this is put together because it already worked with the Wicked Inspired. But like I said, it's the changes, and I may in the border some of my points may be cut off, and that's fine. If some of the points get cut off, I'm okay with that. But the perfectionist in me would want that to be fixed so that if you're selling it, then you would see your points. And what I mean by that is that, let me get here, like this is a little uneven for me, but I'm going to do a 1/4 inch seam, and it's going to cover up, and that point is going to be like this. So it's going to be right there. On this one, however, if I do a 1/4 inch seam, it's possible that the point may look like that. So it won't be a point, it'll be flat. And nobody's really going to be that picky about it. I would. This is not going in a show, so nobody's looking to see that those points aren't pointing. But if that's going to happen, one triangle needs to be just a little bit longer so they overlap to create the 1/4 inch seam, because then we can trim it down to a 1/4 inch. If it's bigger than that, that would make the difference. So I just need to, like I said, was it me or was it that the block could have been bigger? So I do want to take some scraps and try it and see what would happen if I went up like a 1/4 inch and then did it. Would it come together and do, or is it something that I'm doing wrong? So I'll figure that out for her and then, give her my feedback for that. It's not complicated. Shamir, it's like if you're making a corset and you have a pattern, or like the dress you're making tomorrow, if something doesn't line up and you've pattern tested. So, like, even when I've done the pattern testing for the dress, when I made the dress for D, there was a piece, the collar didn't do what it was supposed to do. So I was like, D, this collar doesn't do. And I was happy that it was just a collar because I just redid another collar. There were some other complications with the dress, but if I lose some weight, I should be able to wear it. But and there was somebody else who was a little bit bigger that also had an issue with it. So I was like, okay, so it's not just me. And no, I didn't resize anything because I went bigger and it really should have fit. So, but I also looked at like how B Chantel was in hers, and I was like, yeah, it is what it is. So, like I said, I mean, it's not a problem, but it's just a matter of me making sure. Hi, Valerie, how are you? It's just a matter of me making sure that I give the feedback because that's the purpose. Like you're not getting something and then not giving feedback. You want to make sure that you give the feedback. So I will, like I said, that was the only thing that I saw. So I will, again, I'll be thinking about when I am going to do the remainder of this. I will probably lay out the blocks and then just put those together because you're just following the layout pattern. So I'll probably do that and then I'll work on the borders on live and then attach all the borders. So I will think about when I'm going to do that. Maybe that'll be content for next weekend and I won't rush and do it this week. I will be on tomorrow at 11 o'clock to work on my other pink and purple quilt because I have little girls who love pink and purple. So the pink and purple quilt I'm working on next is this one right here. So that's at 11 o'clock tomorrow. Everything is already cut and ready to go. This is strip quilting as well. These are quick and easy quilts. This is Quilts in a Jiffy. It is a 3-yard quilt. So that means that I only needed 3 yards of white. I'm sorry, 1 yard of white, 1 yard of purple, 1 yard of pinks to make a lap size quilt. So that's what I will be working on tomorrow morning. So I'm going to get plenty of sleep because I'll be back up and back on. And I think I have the same setup tomorrow, I think, because that person, Shamir, is going to be coming for me. And I think I got it now. So stay tuned. Again, I will come up with the schedule for when I will finish part 3 of this. Part 1 was the cutting, part 2 was putting the blocks together, part 3 will be to do the border and then to attach everything to finish the quilt top. And then I will also be working, and so I'll come up with a schedule for when I will do that. I am going live tomorrow to do the Wandering Way at 11 o'clock. No, at 3 o'clock tomorrow. I'm sorry. At 3 o'clock tomorrow. Friday at 11 o'clock, I will be going live to quilt the Big Sister Angel Quilt. So I have 2 days to get life together for that, and I will be doing that quilting on live. Hey, Arby, how are you? So that's my schedule, except for Sunday. Sunday, I will be on. Look, all the sewing. This is all I did over my Easter break. So I will be on live Sunday. Kashana, Black Girl Magic Quilting, should be joining me to work on a quilted tote. We will probably do some quilting in advance. I am doing wonderful, darling. We will probably do some quilting in advance, and then we will go on and make the tote. So stay tuned for that. So I think those are all my announcements. Everything, of course, I posted in live, so you can find those on. You can find those um, on my TikTok, my YouTube, um, Clapper, or Instagram. I did list the schedule and everything for all of those lives. I think I need to go ahead and post my quilts in a jiffy because I do have one for that, even though Carmen has been posting it. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you for getting me to 15K. I appreciate you. Thank you, everyone who was on YouTube and or Twitch with me today. with these multiple platforms. And I absolutely had two cameras set up. Shout out to Heather. I didn't get the one that she has, but I was like, I got another camera. So I set that up and I have a different angle for that. So I'll be trying some things with that as well. So, again, thank you, everyone. Have a great evening, a great night. Thank you for hanging out with me. And I hope to see you again. Make sure you are following me on TikTok, um, Instagram, Clapper, and well, you don't have to follow me on Clapper just yet because I don't go live on there. But TikTok, Instagram, and here if you're following. And again, you can always send me a message if there's something you would like to see or a quilt along you would like me to work on with you. My schedule will be out for next week for what I'll be working on because I have plenty of projects that I need to finish. So, thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Yes, RV, you're late. But I love you, girl. I love you.